one time this whole valley was covered in ancient redwood trees. So starting in the 1800s, they were logging the land for quite some time. And when the Corbels bought it, it was kind of on the tail end of the logging industry. So there was actually an old steam-operated sawmill there about where the parking lot is when they purchased it, and they just continued logging. There used to be railroad tracks going through here. That is the original train station, and that's how they got the logs down to the city, down to the ferry. So at some point, though, things were slowing down. They had to find something new to do. So it was really through trial and error that they ended up in the champagne business. So when they started making wine in 1886, the first half of this building was built. And then just 2 years later, they built the brandy tower up there. And that had a distillery in it, and that's where they distilled the brandy. That was common for wineries back then, to make brandy as well. And then in 1890, they finished the second half of the building. So today, the right half is our corporate offices, and this left half is our museum. That's where we're going to be going and touring through. All of the production today is done on the other side of the property in our modern facilities. So we're going to be talking about history. Nothing is done in there today where we're going, but it's intact how everything was. And we're going to be talking about, you know, how the champagne is made. So, and the history of the Corbel family. So follow me inside, please. Downstairs and watch a video, so follow me, please.
Mga estudyante dito. Mamaya may exam.
Today, their story is largely the story of Corbel, California champagne, a story of American celebration.
So this is the three Corbel brothers here. Francis on the right, and then Anton and Joseph. They all married women from their native country, the Czech Republic. It was called Bohemia at that time. And Francis didn't have any children, but Anton did. And this is Anton's family photo here with lots of women, as you can see. Joseph had a good-sized family as well. We just don't have his photograph. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that a lot of people ask us why we can still use the word champagne. Well, technically we have to say California champagne. And basically we have been making it for 30 years, even before Prohibition began. And just continued making it down on and through the 1990s. Altogether it was 90 years when France kind of, took everybody to court. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but basically. And we were able to continue calling it because of the length of time that we were making it. So there's a law called Latches law. You have to kind of act that you're going to, do something legal like that. You can't let so much time pass. So that's kind of in a nutshell the reason.
Whoa. Whoa. Oh. Ganda dito.
I guess you can see why we call this the barrel room. Come on over. So these huge casks are 130 years old. They're made of New England white oak. This particular size here holds over 2,000 gallons. So there's actually 94 of these down here. And they cost about $191 a piece to build. So they're so large that they had to have the materials brought up by ship, and then the Coopers came up from San Francisco, that's the name of the wine, the barrel makers, and built them right here in place. So we use these for quite a long time, but of course now everything is done in our modern facilities, so these are just, been retired. Do it. So basically the grapes are harvested early. That's a little bit of a difference there between the champagne and wine, is the grapes are harvested early. They're gently crushed and they're made into wine. So that's the first fermentation, when they're made into wine. Then they take that wine and they make a blend or a cuvee. They put it right into the bottle that it's going to go to the store in. So it's put in the bottle, a little yeast is added, a small amount of sugar which feeds the yeast, and they put a temporary cap on top. It's called a crown cap. It's like a beer cap. Once that cap is on there, then it's laid down on its side in the tirage room where we're going to go next, where it just rests there for 3 to 5 years. And it's during that time period that the bubbles are created, during that second fermentation. That the champagne is ready, when it's nice and when it's clear on top and all the sediment is on the bottom, he removes the bottles batch by batch and fills up all these riddling racks. The purpose of that is to get rid of those dead yeast cells that are now sitting on the bottom. So let me show you what you would expect to see. It would be nice and clear, and then can you see all the yeast sitting on the bottom there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So to get rid of that, they're put into the riddling racks because they're trying to work that yeast into the neck of the bottle. So the riddler would go through, once they're in the racks, every single day, multiple times a day, pulling 2 bottles out at a time. This is worn down, by the way. It should be up here, but it's so old that now it's sagging. But 2 bottles partially out, about 1/8 of a turn, and then when he pushes it back in, he hits it against the wood a little bit because that sediment can really be stuck to the bottom after that long time period. So then another 2 spins it, pushes it against the wood, another 2 spins it, pushes against the wood for 2 to 3 months. It's a long time, and he had to do that multiple times a day. But it was when he hit it against the wood that sometimes they did explode. Because they're just, especially in the beginning, so full of pressure. So it really freed up at least one guy to do something else. And the main thing is it cut the riddling time in half. It allowed them to do, produce a lot more. Okay, so now that the yeast is all worked down into the neck of the bottle, the next step is called disgorging, and they still have to do it the old-fashioned way, so I'll show you how that's done. If you look at the picture, you'll see it's set up like an assembly line. They had to work quick. So imagine that there's yeast down in here, about maybe 1/2 inch of all those dead yeast cells, the sediment. So what they did was they used large vats of ice, and they would dip the bottles in there, leave it in the ice. Oh, excuse me, they also added rock salt. That got the ice extra cold. So dip the bottles in, leave the bottles in there, and when they would pull them out, 20 minutes or so, just long enough to freeze about a 2-inch plug of ice there in the bottle. At that point, they could hold the bottle upright and that yeast is not going to come down in. It's kind of partially stuck to the ice there. So then all they had to do was simply bring it over here to the disgorging barrel, lay it there. They used a simple bottle opener, pull that temporary cap off, the pressure from within shoots that ice plug right out of there along with the dead yeast cells, leaving a nice sparkling bottle of wine. Dosages is a mixture of wine and sugar, just plain old cane sugar. And that is added to just slightly adjust the flavor. Remember I said that the grapes were picked early, so it's very, very dry. It just adjusts it slightly. And then the more dosage added, it changes, you know, from, they say dry to semi-dry to semi-sweet and so forth. So, and it's basically the wine that's used is whichever wine is you know, the wine is made out of in the bottle. Okay, now it's ready to cork. And the way this old machine worked is they would set the bottle down there. There's already a cork down in here in place, and that cork was there from the previous bottle that had come through. Now they take a second cork, put it on top, bevel side up. So now you got two corks there. The weight is lifted all the way up with the handle, and as that weight's going up, there's a mechanism inside that is squeezing on the bottom cork. Then they let go of the handle. This weight comes flying down, hits the top of the cork, and forces the second cork into the bottle. Now this cork is going to be down there waiting for the next bottle.
It kept from breaking the top of the bottle.
Did it break?
No, it didn't, because of the second car
Cushions it.
pushing.
That's right. Okay, so now it's ready to put the wire enclosure on. And they have to do that really quick because you know the pressure is going to kind of start working that cork right out. So this is put on, it catches around the lip on the bottle, and it always gets 6 half turns. And then after that, the capsule's put on, or before the capsule's put on, this goes up in here and it pushes the cork in all the way, and then the handle on that side, they have it turned around backwards, but they would spin it, and it actually, this machine would actually do the twisting of the wire enclosure. So then the capsule goes on after that, and the label. After about a month, it goes into the cartons. After about a month, it's ready for to be sent out. It needs about a month for the cork to settle in. Otherwise, it can be difficult to get the cork out. If you've ever had a cork that is difficult to get out, that's why it usually didn't have long. It needs about a month. So, okay.
Thank you, Lana.
Ito na yung inaabangan ko.
Okay.
Whoa. Ang sinayin natin dito is yung sweet rosé. 6% alcohol volume. Retail price is $15 only for one bottle of champagne. Let's taste it. Taste notes is raspberry and vanilla. Charot, binasa ko. Thank you, Don.